At Los Angeles International Airport, a palpable buzz filled the air as travelers hurried through the terminal. Flight 317 bound for Tokyo was slated to depart in just under an hour, and among the well-heeled passengers gathering in first class was Oliver Bennett, a man whose confidence was as impeccably tailored as his suit. Oliver's rise as the founder of a trendy tech startup had recently hit $1 billion milestone, and his social media was a constant showcase of his disruptive persona, complete with photos of lavish celebrations and captions proclaiming his innovative genius. Oliver strolled toward the boarding gate with a self-assured stride, exchanging curt nods with staff who were all too familiar with his reputation. A friendly flight attendant greeted him by name, her smile a little too practiced as she ushered him into the spacious, luxurious cabin. Every seat in first class resembled a private lounge, complete with a personal entertainment screen and plush leather cushioning. Oliver's assigned seat 2A was his domain for the next 12 hours. With a theatrical flourish, he draped his designer blazer over the seat and slipped on his premium noise-canceling headphones, ready to drown out any distractions. Not long after, a quiet presence emerged as a man in a plain hoodie quietly occupied the seat next to him. 2B, this stranger, in stark contrast to Oliver's flamboyant style, wore well-worn sneakers and a baseball cap that cast a shadow over his face. The man's relaxed demeanor and almost meditative focus on his smartphone immediately set him apart from the bustling self-promoters that populated the cabin. Oliver, absorbed in his own world of trending topics and self-promotion, barely registered the newcomer. The cabin door closed behind them, and as the engines hummed to life, Oliver's attention remained fixed on his laptop. A flight attendant soon glided down the aisle, offering a glass of champagne. Oliver downed the bubbly in one swift motion, savoring the taste of success and luxury. It wasn't long before he noticed the seat beside him was still unoccupied, until the quiet stranger settled in with a polite nod. "Hey, what's your story?" Oliver asked, breaking the silence with a tone that bordered on condescension. "I'm always curious about fellow tech folks." The stranger glanced up briefly, his expression unreadable behind the brim of his cap. "I work in tech," he replied simply before returning his attention to the screen in his hand. Oliver, unwilling to let this minimal response deter him, leaned in and continued. "Really? You must have some interesting tales. I mean, the tech world is full of innovation, and frankly, a lot of hot air. Take Elon Musk, for instance. Everyone worships him like some modern-day messiah, but isn't he just a reckless showman?" His voice, dripping with self-assured superiority, rang out over the gentle hum of the cabin. At that, the stranger's fingers paused mid-scroll. A subtle smile flickered across his face, a smile that hinted at amusement rather than offense. Still, he said nothing, merely raising an eyebrow as if silently challenging Oliver to elaborate. Undeterred, Oliver pressed on. "I mean, SpaceX might sound impressive if you enjoy watching billions vanish in exploding rockets, and Tesla. Overhyped doesn't even begin to cover it. And Twitter, what a train wreck of a takeover." His tone grew louder with each sentence, attracting curious glances from nearby passengers. The stranger in 2B, his voice calm and measured, finally spoke. "I think you're passionate, Oliver," he said, his tone gentle but firm. "But passion isn't the same as insight. People can get lost in the noise, mistaking hype for innovation." His words, although softly spoken, resonated through the cabin with quiet authority. Oliver's eyes narrowed as he leaned forward, intent on challenging the remark. "Insight? Look, facts don't lie. Musk is a walking PR stunt. Real innovators build the future. They don't just ride waves of publicity." His attempt to dominate the conversation, however, seemed to earn only a slight, enigmatic nod from his companion, who then returned his attention to his phone. As the flight progressed, the tension between the two men simmered beneath the surface. Oliver, increasingly irate by the stranger's minimal engagement, began to pepper his conversation with jabs about startups and tech trends. "Let me guess," he sneered. "You're one of those guys riding the crypto or AI bandwagon, right? Everything's a trend these days." His words dripped with sarcasm and a desperate need for affirmation from an audience that was slowly gathering around. The stranger, still unfazed, replied with a hint of amusement. I prefer to say I'm here to do meaningful work rather than chase every fleeting trend. His response was measured, as if he had already seen it all before. Around them, whispers and sidelong glances from fellow passengers underscored the growing intrigue over the unfolding exchange. Minutes later, as dinner service began, the contrasting choices between the two men became even more evident. Oliver ordered a lavish steak, cooked to perfection, while the stranger opted for a modest, neatly arranged vegetarian dish. As the trays were set before them, Oliver couldn't help but mutter under his breath, "Must be nice not caring about the finer details." The stranger's only response was a brief, knowing smile, a smile that seemed to acknowledge a secret far beyond Oliver's limited understanding. Over the next several hours, the cabin buzzed with subdued conversation and the clinking of cutlery. Oliver's attempt to corner his companion continued intermittently, each remark growing bolder, fueled by a mix of alcohol and his own ego. "You must have some deep insights on Musk, right? I mean, if you're really in tech, you can't possibly admire a guy who's all style and no substance." His voice carried a mixture of challenge and disbelief, attempting to force a confession. Finally, as the cabin lights dimmed in preparation for the long-haul flight's latter half, the stranger set his book aside and met Oliver's gaze directly for the first time. There was a quiet intensity in his eyes, a depth that belied the casual way he had conducted himself until now. "I've spent enough time in this industry to know that not everything is as it seems," he said softly. "Sometimes what appears to be reckless is merely the boldness required to drive real change." Oliver scoffed, dismissing the comment as nothing more than philosophical posturing. Boldness? More like a publicity stunt. Musk's whole persona is just a facade to distract from his flaws. His words, however, were met with a gentle but firm retort. Innovation isn't about chasing applause. It's about overcoming challenges, about building something that matters, regardless of the noise around it. The conversation reached a fever pitch just as a flight attendant approached with an important announcement. "Excuse me, sir," she said, her tone respectful yet formal. "The captain has an update regarding your connection in Tokyo." Oliver, momentarily distracted, listened as she continued. "They've confirmed your arrival details, Mr. Musk." For a heartbeat, time seemed to freeze in the cabin. Oliver's face drained of color as he processed the unexpected words. "Mr. Musk?" The man in the plain hoodie, who had so quietly deflected his criticisms, was none other than Elon Musk. The realization hit him like a tidal wave, and the bravado that had fueled his earlier tirade evaporated instantly. With an almost imperceptible shift, the man in 2B, Elon Musk, set his book aside and acknowledged the attendant with a polite nod. "Thank you," he said, his voice warm and unruffled. The calm, measured tone of his reply contrasted starkly with Oliver's earlier outburst. Oliver fumbled for words, his mind racing to reconcile his previous arrogance with the humbling truth that had just been revealed. I didn't mean to offend," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. I thought you'd appreciate a little tough love." Elon's eyes softened slightly, a flicker of amusement dancing within them as he regarded Oliver. "Criticism can be useful," Elon replied quietly, "but it's only valuable when it comes from a place of understanding rather than ego. Everyone faces their share of challenges. It's the way we learn from them that counts." His words, delivered with calm dignity, left Oliver momentarily speechless. As the flight continued its journey above the clouds, the ambiance in first class shifted subtly. The once boisterous atmosphere gave way to a reflective quiet, and Oliver found himself grappling with a mix of regret and a newfound sense of humility. He couldn't help but replay every word, every sneer, realizing that his previous arrogance had blinded him to the genuine struggles and achievements of others. In a final bid to salvage some dignity, Oliver ventured once more, his tone tentative. "So, do you really believe that criticism, even when harsh, can lead to real progress?" His eyes searched Elon's face for any hint of empathy. Elon paused, his gaze steady and introspective. "It's not about who says it," he replied, "but whether the criticism holds truth. If it does, then it becomes a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block." The rest of the flight passed in quiet contemplation. Oliver's earlier bravado was replaced by a reflective silence as he absorbed the lesson, imparted not through a grand spectacle but through the quiet authority of a man who had achieved greatness without the need for constant applause. Elon, ever composed, resumed reading his book as if the conversation had been nothing more than an exchange of ideas between two passengers. As the plane began its descent toward Tokyo, the cabin stirred with the anticipation of landing. Oliver gazed out the window at the sprawling city lights below, his thoughts a turbulent mix of regret and resolve. He realized that his journey, both literal and metaphorical, had taken an unexpected turn. In that shared space between arrogance and humility, he had discovered a truth he had long ignored, that real innovation demands not just bold ideas, but also the courage to listen and learn. Before disembarking, Elon turned to Oliver with a quiet smile and a final piece of advice. "Keep questioning, Oliver," he said softly, "but remember that wisdom often comes from the quietest voices. Good luck with your work, and I hope you build something that truly makes a difference." With that, Elon walked away, blending into the crowd with the same understated elegance that had defined his presence throughout the flight. Left behind in the now silent cabin, Oliver felt a weight in his chest, a mix of shame, respect, and the stirring of a desire to change. As the passengers disembarked and the door closed behind them, he knew that the encounter had altered something deep within him. The lesson was clear. While it's easy to shout your opinions from the rooftops, the true challenge lies in listening to others, embracing humility, and striving for genuine progress. In the days that followed, Oliver's perspective began to shift. The memory of that humbling encounter with Elon Musk lingered in his mind, serving as a constant reminder that even the most confident among us can learn from those we least expect. And so his journey, both as a man and as an innovator, took on a new dimension, marked by a quiet determination to grow beyond the confines of arrogance and to seek out the deeper truths that drive real change.